Okay, it's recording, right? Okay, so basically today is the last lecture of the course, and we will try to solve together a sample exam, the one that I already published a couple of weeks ago, I think, on the course website. Okay, so actually the sample exam, just something similar to what you are supposed to do for the exam, right? There's already the text for the first exam published, but I mean, next exams will require something similar. Of course, we are not going to solve the first one, but I mean, something that was given in the past. This study plan, okay, let's say text, that actually requires us to do something, to implement something in the form of a web application with some requirements that we are going to read now. Okay, so we will focus mainly on designing the solution. Okay, that's the most difficult part, and then the rest you should follow, I would say, almost automatically. If you attended the lab, you are able to write the code taken from the labs, from the lectures. I mean, there's no problem in taking that code. The only thing we don't want is that you take the code from your colleagues exactly as it is, okay? I mean, of course, we cannot prevent you to talk with other people. It's normal, but I mean, we don't want solutions which are excessively similar. And actually, it happened to us only once in the past. Actually, there was not really I mean, the similarity was almost the same, okay? So you compare them, and there was just one space more in one line and stuff like that. Okay, so that doesn't mean that you change the name of some variables and that our tool doesn't detect anything. But I mean, if you do it by yourself, you are safe. Okay. Okay, so let's have a look at this text and try to think how we can solve the problem in terms of designing the web application. Okay, designing the web application means, first of all, having a rough idea what the application should do on the client side, but really a rough idea. So we'll try to sketch something. I have a pen for this. And then we will try to design the APIs, which are the way in which the client part communicates with the server. And actually, it's not just about communication, is just about operations that the client, so the actual application, can perform on data. Okay, that's why we design the APIs first before implementing everything, and then we'll try to go forward and implement some parts. Okay, as much as we can. Okay, so first let's have a look at the text, and of course, if something is not clear, you're free to ask, and you're free to propose different solutions as well while we proceed. Okay? As you already asked for the first exam, right? So, okay, so well, let me download it so it's easier, I think. Okay, so design and implement a web application to manage the study plan of university student. The application must satisfy the following requirements. The university offers a series of courses. Okay. Each course is characterized by unique 7 characters code, a name, and an integer number of credits. Okay, so just some data. Okay, a student's study plan is a subset of the courses offered by the university. A total number of credits of the course inserted in a study plan can range from 60 to 80 credits, with extremes included. Well, just because somebody always asks, I mean, is 8 included or not, and so. For the full-time option, 20 to 40 for part-time option. So there's a sort of flag that decides if part-time or full-time, and then depending on this, we have a minimum and maximum number of credits that must compose the study plan. A course can have one or more constraints for its insertion in the study plan, so to be inserted in the study plan. A course can be incompatible with one or more courses, okay? And incompatible means they cannot be selected together. A course can have one mandatory preparatory course, which must be already present in the study plan when you add your course, okay? So just one in this case. I mean, just for a little bit of variety and also to save you, let's say, some coding, okay? A course can have a maximum number of students able to add it in the study plan, okay? So there are some courses that have a limit, okay? A maximum number of students that can put that course in their study plan. In the home page of the application, unauthenticated means anonymous users see all the courses that the university offers. So we arrive at the application and there's something to be shown, okay? Like I think in the example in the classroom, we have the list of answers, okay? You arrive at the application, you load something. Okay, this list of courses must be displayed in alphabetical order by course name. Now, if we require things like this, I mean, please try not to forget it, okay? I mean, just because otherwise we need to deduct something from you know, from the submission, okay? For each course, the list shows its description, the course, the name, the number of credits, the number of students that already chose the course, and if present, maximum number of students that can select it, okay? So basically this tells us that some courses can have a maximum number of students, okay? And some others have no maximum, okay? It's infinity, I mean, you represent it as you like, but I mean, there should be no maximum, okay? Each course description may be expanded and contracted by the user to show any incompatible and or preparatory courses, okay? Display at least their code, since we were asked what should we show, you know, when you open the course and you want to show which courses are incompatible and preparatory, okay? Many courses may be in the expanded state at the same time, okay? So this is a requirement for visualization, okay? Sometimes there are, I'm not sure, I think we have no requirements of this kind. No, we have a sort of requirements in the first exam. Just show something, and then in case you want the details, I mean, like the list of comments, okay? But it's a bit different from here. We will discuss it when it's time. Once logged in, users continue to see the same full course list, but in this page, if no study plan has been created, the user might create an empty one, an empty study plan, by specifying the full-time or part-time option, okay? So first thing, we need to decide if it's part-time or full-time. And then this empty list can be edited according to the following instruction. If a study plan has already been created and persistent is saved, it's immediately displayed in the same page and can be edited as below. So if something was already stored, like we logged in and we already have a study plan, the study plan should show up here in this page, right? So we can then later modify it. The editing of the displayed study plan allows the following operations. Always display the number of credits corresponding to the courses in the study plan. Yeah, maybe here it was better to say the total number of credits, okay? And the minimum, maximum allowed values. So depending on the fact it was part-time or full-time. Add a course from the full list to the study plan. So you have the list of courses and you can add the course to your study plan. Only courses that satisfy all constraints can be added. Okay, so you remember we have some constraints. If there is an incompatible one in the study plan, you cannot add the other course and so on. Okay? Remove a course from the study plan if it does not violate any preparatory constraints. Otherwise, the application should display the reason. Okay, so in some ways, you go to that course, you press on, let's say, remove whatever, and it shows you a message or something. If a course cannot be added, it will be marked differently in the full list, and the application should display the reason. Okay, so basically, there should be a way of identifying courses that currently cannot be added in the study plan because of some reason. And if you go there, or maybe it's already there, you need to be able to see the reason. Okay, during the editing session, the user may save the study plan in a persistent way. This will replace a possible previous version. Okay, The user may cancel the current modification. In this case, the persistent copy, if any is present, must not be modified. Okay? When saving, the study plan must be validated according to the min-max number of credits. Okay? Additionally, the user may delete the entire study plan, including the persistent copy. Okay? So there's a button for the delete. After each of these actions, the application will be, we go back to the logged in home page. Okay? So actually, the list, full list of courses and the study plan. Okay? And this is new for this year. Okay? So we just added the fact that the delete action can be performed only if two-factor authentication has been performed. Okay? So, we can read all the story, but also, any student can also choose to authenticate without using the second factor authentication procedure at the login time, thus acting as an authenticated user with username and password only, and in this case, it cannot delete the study plan. Okay? The organization of these specifications is left to the students, and use discrete, secret, and so on. Okay? And well, you can have a look at the rest of the project requirements, but actually they are the same as for the first exam. Okay? Actually, this part is basically the same. What changes is what you need to already load inside the application in terms of data, because each application has different sets of data, right? Different kinds of data depending on what the application does. So actually here we have a list of courses to be inserted and so on. This was really detailed. As you saw your first exam, not so detailed. You have more freedom. And the database must be preloaded with at least 5 students, at least one with a part-time study plan and one with a full-time study plan. At least 2 courses should have reached the maximum number of enrolled students and so on. This is just to speed up the tests during the oral exam, okay? Because in this way we don't have to, let's say, create a new study plan, add courses until we reach, a maximum number of students enrolled and so on and so on. It takes a lot of time, and basically just test and test and test again the same features, okay? We would like to try testing the features just once, at most twice, okay? Just to speed up things. So you preload something. We don't really want you to have the same data. Well, this case was a bit peculiar in the sense that, the list of courses was specified, but your exam is not like this. So you have a post, comments, and so on. We try to have some variety so we can test different features quite easily, okay? So the database must include here at least the following courses. So typically we give a minimum set of things to have to be loaded in the database. Okay, if you want to put more, it's fine. We have more possibilities when testing. Okay, and so this is the list. So there are courses that have more than one course as incompatible one. Courses that require a preparatory course with different credits, with a different maximum number of students, and so on. Okay? Contents of the README file. Typically, this is standard as well. What changes here is the screenshot. Typically, we require something different for each exam, because simply it depends on what the application does. There's a more significant place in the application for each exam where we would like to have maybe the screenshot, so just to have a look at how it should look like in case something doesn't work and so on. Okay, this is just a sort of safety mechanism. But once you have the application working, you just take a screenshot of this page, and this is the logged in home page. So basically, the one with the list of the courses and your study and the study plan of the logged in user, and that's all. Okay, so BIM procedure. I really recommend you to be very careful in following this procedure, okay? Don't forget to enroll in the exam call. I think, there are more than 100 students registered at the moment for the first exam call. I mean, it's free. You can do it. We will send a message maybe 2-3 days before the date of the exam, just to ask anybody who thinks he or she cannot submit the solution to just delete the enrollment in the exam. Okay, I mean, just to have a rough idea of the number for doing the schedule for the oral exams. Okay, we need to book the rooms and things like that. Okay. Okay, but this is important also because we will download the list and we'll match it with the classroom list and with the submissions and so on. So we have a couple of scripts to do these operations, and so since you have so many, if the script works, it's much better. Also, we don't make mistakes. Accept the invitation on GitHub Classroom. This is needed for the submission. You can accept it even now. I mean, even if you are not sure you're going to submit the solution, it doesn't really matter because it's just a click and it creates a repository on GitHub associated with your ID, with your student ID number. And if you don't submit, doesn't matter. I mean, we don't collect anything that has not been tagged with final. Okay, that's why we require the final tag, just to distinguish those who simply clicked and did nothing, or maybe did a couple of commits and then they decided, well, I'm going to go to the second exam or third exam and so on, and those that instead want to submit the final solution, so they want to come at the first exam call. Okay. Make sure you test your solution. Okay, I mean, adding the final tag, you can do it in any way. Just make sure it's added on the repository in the GitHub. Use the web interface to check it. Okay, because the web interface is always right. Something can be added locally, you forgot to push it remotely and so on, so make sure everything is fine. Okay, and these are the commands we use to download your project. I mean, nothing really special. We just clone the repository, we create a branch, but just for, I mean, safety, let's say, so that we can roll back any change in case. And we will not modify your repository. We will not commit anything to your repository. Okay, this is just a local copy and a local branch. Okay, on the server, our server, and then we will simply install the packages that you specified in the package JSON. So make sure everything is contained there in terms of dependencies. Okay, the only thing you need or you can leave out is Nodebone. The rest must be specified in the package JSON. Okay, and also have, I mean, try to test it under Linux if possible. We will have a server with Linux, as many servers run Linux. And be aware that Linux is case sensitive for file names. Windows is not. Mac OS is not. Okay? If you make a require with a different case, it works, and any system except Linux. Okay? Require file names and stuff like that. Okay? So easy to test. I mean, you just create a virtual machine with Linux. Or you just rent a virtual machine. I mean, just a few clicks like AWS and so on. I mean, there's a free tier or whatever provider. I mean, you don't really need anything really special. Any default Linux distribution with Node, you install Node, you give this command, you make sure everything starts. That's all. Okay, and in case something doesn't start, you investigate what. Typically, it's a problem of case sensitiveness or you missed some dependency. Okay, good. So let's go back to the point here. We have the study plan to implement, the application, study plan to implement. Okay? So my recommendation is to start from a piece of paper. Okay? Not from writing code. Okay? So let's try to think first in terms of what the application should show to the user. Okay, that's the easiest starting point. Okay, so well, actually, I mean, we can go back and reread the text and so on, but I mean, in the interest of time, we'll try not to reread too much. But in a certain sense, the text already guides us. I mean, there's an home page, and you should show something in the home page, right? So, I mean, let's think in these terms. If you have different ideas, just please tell me, okay? So, that's the first, a bit too big. The first page, okay? Route slash, okay? And that's a list of courses, okay? And this is accessible without authentication, right? I think so. Where's the, yes. Yeah, unauthenticated users see all the courses that the university offers, okay? The list of courses must be in alphabetical order and so on, not to be forgotten, but I mean for later. The list shows the description, code name, and so on. Each course might be expanded, contracted, so just as a detail, I mean, we can say there are some buttons that can be opened or closed, okay, to open some details about the course, okay. Okay. Once logged in, the users continue to see the same full course list. In this page, if no study plan has been created yet, the user may create an empty one. So in this page, okay, means in the same page. So once you log in, you go to a page where you have, I think, the list of the courses, we said, and your study plan, okay, with other courses. So study plan, okay, and this can be, I don't know, another name for the route, study plan. What plan? Okay, let me just save this stuff so I will publish it after the lecture. Yes, so this is a study plan. So OPP. Okay, and of course we logged in, so there should be some place where you can log in. Okay, it's up to you to decide. I mean, if you want to have a new route, you want to have a different mechanism, like I don't know, an header. And header here with login. I don't know. It's up to you. Okay. We saw different versions, right, in the classroom. Well, actually, in the classroom we saw something in the middle. There's a page for login, and then we have a bar where it says logged in and with the logout and so on. In the lab, yeah, I think it's similar, right? So a different page, and then actually it was not mandatory, I think. Anyway, I mean, there should be a button, let's say, but I mean, we will think about the buttons or way of navigating later, okay? So let's say there's another page with login, okay? With the two buttons. Let me do the buttons. Okay, okay. Or submit. So. Okay, and once you log in, you go to the page of the study plan. Okay. Do we miss something? I don't know. Actually, we should reread again, the text and so on. I think we are almost done, because the rest of the actions, we can do the actions directly in this view, in the one of the study plan. Okay, so I think it should be all. Of course, I mean, I'm just designing things. I'm not sure I got everything correct. And so in case at a certain point I realize, well, this cannot be implemented with just these views and so on, I go back and change my design, update all the rest of the code to reflect this change. Okay? But typically views are not that many, okay? At least in our exams, because the more the views, the more code you have to write, and you only have 3 weeks, right? Actually, not full time, but I mean 3 weeks from when we give you the assignment when you submit it. So now, does navigation between the pages work? Well, I think so. I mean, we arrive from outside, right? We arrive at slash, and then at a certain point we should go to the login, right? From this we go to the login. Let's say there's a button login. So as we did before here, login. This is a button, okay? Button or a link. I mean, we don't really care that much. It depends on how things, I mean, depending on your needs. If you want to have a button, you have the on-click event, it's easier. And if you want to have a link, you don't have the on-click event. So it depends on what you want to implement. And then after the login, actually, we go to the study plan, right? So study plan. And then after the study plan, we go back with the logout, right? So let's say that's a logout button. Logout. Okay. I mean, this pen is not writing so well, but it doesn't matter. Okay. Actually, there was an additional point to care. I mean, when at login time, you have the option to authenticate using the second factor, okay? With the TOTP and so on. And so, actually, we need to decide how to implement this part, right? So, we gave some indications during the lectures. So we gave examples how to implement this feature. I would recommend you follow those examples, but I mean, anything that is reasonable is acceptable. I mean, we don't really want you to stick to our solution if you feel that you could implement things in a different way, okay? So basically we have, let's say, a second view. Actually, in the lecture it was under the same route, okay? So let's say everything is under login, okay? With the TOTP, okay? Let's say TOTP. Just for us, just to remember what it is. And actually, since you have the option to go forward or not, you have both the OK button in the sense validate and so on, you go on, you proceed with the OTP or skip or whatever you want, okay? Cancel and so on, okay? So you have the option, okay? And actually, should this page be shown for all users? Well, I think so, because it says all students have the option, okay? So after the login, if username and password is correct, we show the TOTP, let's say, form, and the user decides what to do. It enters the number and press OK, validate, or it just says skip and go on without the validation. Okay. Fine. So, yes, logout is already there. So I think, I mean, the basic stuff is there. No, there's still one thing missing, right? Because there's the save, delete, and so on, okay? I mean, in case we forget, we go back later, okay? But I mean, just since we are here, I mean, let's discuss those things. So let's say we have some actions like save, or delete. Okay. Or I think we have a cancel as well. Cancel. Okay, sorry for the bad writing. Save, cancel, or delete. Okay, so the difference between cancel and delete is a permanent action that involves the server. Cancel is an action that only request the client to do some modification about its state. So what you already inserted in your study plan, but you didn't save yet. Okay? It's like writing in a program like this, others, and not pressing save yet. Okay? Okay, I think that's all more or less, right? No, not yet. Not really yet. I mean, we need to have a way to move the courses, right, from left to right and vice versa. You're not supposed to implement strange things, I mean, nice things, but very difficult to implement things like drag and drop or stuff like that, okay? We didn't see them, they are not required. I mean, just use some buttons or some links, something that tells your application that the user interacted with the page and decided to change something, okay? Like a plus, okay? And minus somewhere here, okay? So you have the option to add the course from the left to the right to the study plan, and the option to remove the course from the right, so from the study plan. And yeah, actually, I mean, not putting it back on the left because it's already, it stays there, but let's say updating the number of enrolled students and so on, depending on what is required by the text. Okay? So I think that's all for the moment, really all. Okay? And in case we missed something, we will come back. Okay, so now we have a rough idea about the routes on the client, right? And then we can start thinking about the actions, okay? So the communication between the client and the server, okay? Before going on, I wanted to tell you and also stress how important it is to document what you are doing, also for the exam. You see the README file, and you see this structure, except for the text, this structure is the one that you have in your repository once you accept the assignment, right? We have a template. Basically, it includes some code for the server. I mean, really nothing except import express and start the server. And for the client, so we run the create, write, create, etc. And that's all, okay? And so try not to move files, I mean the README one, okay? Of course, in the client and so on. I mean, keep the names of the folder the same, client and server, okay? Because our scripts, like the one you saw before, expect there's a client and the server folder, and inside with the package JSON. But apart from that, I mean, you can change the rest according to what you want to develop, okay? Just keep the README here as well without moving it. And the README is the first file we will read together at the exam, okay, during the oral examination. Why? Because it allows us to get a first understanding about what you did, okay? And then we will test the application, but we will read the README before starting the test of the application. So make sure everything is correct here, okay? but especially for you, because it allows you to think in terms of, you know, did I wrote everything, did I consider everything, and so on, okay? Of course, you don't just start writing everything and then implement. I mean, you update it while you are developing the solution. But for instance, now we have the client application routes, we can start writing them down, okay? So, actually, 1, 2, 3, 4, this is exam number 1, okay? Exam title, what was it? Well, study plan in this case, you can put, what's the forum, right? I mean, not really important, but you know, you put your ID, okay, minus 999 and so on. Okay. Yeah, put your name here. I'm not really important. We can distinguish in any case your solution from other ones, but you know, just again, it simplifies a lot of things. Especially, we open it, we see your name, so we are quite confident we didn't open another one. Okay. So route slash page content and purpose. Actually, the page content was the home, right? Home list of courses. Okay. Anybody can access it. And then we decided to have a login. Okay. Nothing to invent in the login. I mean, you can write login page, login form. Maybe in this case, in this year, I mean, we did this TOTP, including TOTP authentication if needed. Okay. Well, validation, let's say. Validation. Well, TOTP form. Okay. I don't like validation. Okay. It depends on what you think it's appropriate for our case. Okay. And route. What's the other name? We just say study plan, and it's yeah, list of courses plus study plan, right? With the study plan. Okay. And then for us, that's all. You might have the not found page and so on, but I mean, we're not going to test the not found page. I hope, I mean, all links in your application are not broken. Okay, so, I mean, that's the minimum we require. Okay? Okay, so, good. And then we need to think in terms of APIs. Right? So, what do we require for the APIs? Well, let's think of use cases. User arrives at one of the routes, and it needs to be able to use the functionalities of those routes. Okay, like the slash should show the courses. We need to load the courses from the server, right? I mean, the courses are not in the application, are on the server. So please, if you have any other ideas, just tell me, okay? At a certain point, I will stop. And so get slash, well, I can copy pasting, it's faster. Okay, let's get API courses, okay? Courses, yeah, you can have a short description. I will publish, I mean, after the lecture, I will publish a full README with all, you know, the details, I mean, headers, response codes, body, etc., etc. We are trying to design the application, so you shouldn't think too much in depth at this point, okay? Otherwise, you lose your, let's say, logical thread, so your way of thinking all the functionality of the application, and I mean, you're not sure you got everything, at least the most important things in the beginning. Okay, so returns the list of all courses that nothing. I mean, all courses, okay? Should it return the details of the courses as well? So incompatibilities, etc. Yeah, why not? I mean, this is public information. Make sure that APIs that you call when you have no authenticated session only returns information that is available to everybody. But in our case, I mean, the information about a course is incompatible with one or more and so on. I mean, it's not just restricted to authenticated users. There's no place where it says, it's restricted, okay? But be careful, because sometimes you need to, understand yourself if this application is only to be shown to authenticated users, so it must be restricted, okay? Restricted in terms of returned only to requests that have an authentication session active. And if it's only a subset of the authenticated users, you need to check which user is making the request through the rec user and so on, and only return the information to those users. This is really important, okay? One of the things we will check at the exam for sure. Okay, but here for the courses we have no such problem, okay? Because this is public information. In case you have doubts, you can ask, okay? I cannot say you need to check this and that on the server side, etc. But I can for sure say this is not public information. This can only be shown by this set of users, all authenticated users and so on, or this is public information, so anybody can see this information. Because this is part of the requirements, okay? So either it is clear from the text, or you have a doubt and you ask and we clarify the text if it's not clear enough. Okay, the list of all courses with the details. That means what were the details? The constraints, and also the enrolled students. Okay, yeah, why not? Right. Yeah, unauthenticated users see. For each course, the list shows its description and so on. So, I mean, there's no reason to not to return this information. Enrolled students, max. Okay, good. That's one API. Okay. Then think again what you do. Well, you can open the details of the course, but you already have the information, so I think you don't need a second API to get the details of the course. Of course, you can make a second API. You can just return the list of courses and make a second API that returns the detail of a specific course. It's fine, okay? This is the variability that we will see at the exam between one solution, the other solution, and so on, okay? So each one has its own ideas, I mean, as long as they are reasonable, it's fine, okay? Okay. But let's try to keep things simple, just one API for the moment at least, okay? And then we will log in, right? We say that's the login. So just copy paste. I mean, there's no need to invent anything in authentication. As we say, stick to the well-established ways and frameworks for doing authentication and so on, also because it's so easy to do things wrong, right? So post API session, right? Creates authenticates a user. Authenticates the user. Okay, this is just for me. I mean, just writing down the things that comes to my mind. Okay. then you can add the other one, to perform the TOTP if you like. Okay. Yeah, before we forget, returns user information. Okay. I don't know, is there a name? I don't remember. Students. Well, it says nothing, right? I think. Yeah. So, do you want to put a name? Up to you. As I wrote in the answers to some of the comments for the first exam, not required. If you don't want to put a name, it's fine. Okay, we didn't require it. I mean, you can get information which is attached to the user, it's fine. Maybe you want to get the username back, even though you submitted it, so you should have it, it's fine. I mean, so user information, I would say at the moment I have no idea what the user information could be. Okay, apart from something which is not required, like first name, last name, and so on. Okay, I mean it's not wrong to have a first name, last name in database and show it somewhere. I mean it's fine, but it's more code you need to write. If it's already there, just put it. I mean it's fine, but make sure the code you include works. Okay, otherwise it's better to keep it out from the submission. Okay, and then well, we need to get the study plan, right? A study plan. So let's get the study plan. Study plan. Okay. This is, no, let me write it here. Authenticated API, okay? Anybody can call the API, but the server will answer with something only to those who have an authenticated section active, okay? And it will answer with the study plan, which corresponds to the one of the authenticated user, okay? So there is no need to write like the ID of the study plan. This is really wrong. It takes a lot of marks away from your final grade, okay? Because, I mean, there's just one information that the user can see. It's its own study plan, okay? And we don't need to know which user is making the request through this API. I mean, we already know it. There's a session established. You have the rec user object on the server side. You query that object and you know which one is making the request. Okay? It's wrong to send the username, the ID of the user, whatever you want to send. I mean, this API has no parameters. No need for any parameter. Actually, I would add, it's wrong to send any parameter with this API because everything is already available on the server side. And you need to trust the information on the server side and not to trust the information coming from the client, even if it's an authenticated API, because you might have more than one user. Everybody of you is authenticated on the Polito web portal, but each one of you can correctly only access its own information, okay? Not the information from your colleagues and so on. Okay. Returns the study plan of the authenticated user, okay? Okay. at a certain point, we will try to detail a little bit more about how this information is structured, like the list of courses, how do we treat the courses, is there an ID for each course, and so on. Like here, we didn't say anything about the full-time, part-time yet, and so on. Okay? But let's try to finish the design of the API before going into more details. Okay? Okay. So again, what do we need? Think in terms of the application. Okay? The application says, well, once you have the study plan, you can add courses, you can remove courses, that's fine. But actually, do we need to save these operations? I mean, transfer these operations on the server side? Well, from what I understood, we shouldn't do that because we have the possibility to cancel all the operations that we did before saving the study plan, right? So actually, saving the study plan is the action that communicates a new study plan to the server, okay? So for this action, we need an API for sure, okay? Because this is a permanent action that needs to be registered on the server side, so saving the study plan. These actions, if you have other ideas, we can discuss them. For the moment, let's leave them behind. I mean, not implementing any APIs for them. So, saving a study plan, right? Okay. Which method will you use for saving the study plan? I mean, the URL could be the same. Of course, it's not a get, right? Save the study plan. Okay? So, which method, which HTTP method would you use? I mean, not so many options, right? I mean, this is something that if you do it twice, it changes the result? No. Even though, you know, when you create the study plan initially, actually, I mean, there's no study plan yet. So, I think in this case, post or put is the same, okay? Even though I'm a little bit more in favor of using the post because the post is safer in the sense that, if something happens in the meanwhile, no, it's wrong. Let's say if something is not existing and you want to create, we always say that a post is better because I mean you create a new study plan, right? So I would say I would use personally a post. In case you use the put, I think it's tolerable in the sense that if you consider that a study plan is an empty study plan is actually a study plan, I think it's still acceptable as a, let's say, way of interpreting the request, the text. Okay. But I mean, there are cases in which things, for sure, they don't exist before, they are created after. And so, I mean, post is the way to go. Okay, this is a little bit borderline. Okay, save the study plan. So we say create or save the study plan. Okay, save. Actually, save. What does it mean? Overwrite. Okay, there's a possibility. Okay. Another possibility would be actually you have a study plan, and you want to make some modifications, you only send the modifications, okay? And not the full study plan. So you don't overwrite, but you implement modifications. It's a different meaning for the API. One receives the full study plan, the other one receives only the differences. I think both solutions are acceptable, okay? I mean, if you have other ideas, just pick up and we will discuss them. I mean, as you see, there are many different ways of implementing the same text, right? The same application. I don't think there is a particular advantage or disadvantage in any of the solutions, okay? That we discussed at the moment, okay? Yeah. Okay. So we have implemented, let's say, the save button. We still need to delete the study plan. Right, this is easy, right? Just delete the study plan. Authenticated API, of course. I would say, don't forget, okay? Requires the OTP. And this deletes the study plan. Okay? Good. Yes, I think the rest is just copy pasting, right? So, yeah, and then you need to have like the usual get. Well, I mean, not strictly required, but API session current, right? And then the delete API session current, right? I think that's the way in which we implemented it, right? And then we need to have the post, we say the API TOTP login or something like this, okay? I'm not writing the description. I mean, the description can be just copy pasting, okay? Adapting a little bit maybe for the user, like when you get the session current, depends on what you return on the post, you return the same in the get, okay? Do you think something is missing? I don't think so for the moment, at least, okay? Okay. So here I'm not sure what is better to do. It probably depends a lot on you. I mean, it's better to try to define a little bit more in details the information that goes from the client to the server and vice versa, or maybe you want to think in terms of data stored on the server side in the database. And so design the table schemas and then decide how to transmit this information. It's up to you, okay? So not really sure what's the best thing. Yeah. I mean, for this exercise, I think I will stay here because, you know, APIs are really important. So I want to have a good documentation on the APIs, right? So let's try to think about the courses, okay? So response body, okay? Of course, we will use JSON for communication, I think. It's even in the requirements. I hope so. No, I think we should add it. No, but I mean, really, I mean, of course, you can communicate data in any format, but we saw JSON as probably the best way to communicate in case you have structured the data. And if you deviate from this pattern, I think you should have at least a good explanation during your exam why you did it. Okay? I mean, if it's just you return a number, I mean, we understand that, well, actually a single number is a valid JSON as well. Anyway, you have to return a string, a single string, or a single, I don't know, some values which is not, I mean, something that you don't want to represent in JSON in one API is still fine as long as, you know, it doesn't create problems and, you know, it works, of course. And I would say that's the reason why you did it. Okay? But I cannot really see that many reasons. I mean, not really seeing one at the moment, I would say. Okay, the list of all courses. Get API courses. Well, you want to return a list? It's a list, right? Let's try to sketch an example, a sample JSON. Okay? A course, anything which is not a list and is something more complex than a number and a string, it's an object, right? An object that will have a code, a course code, no code, we call it code, okay? Any code. So it's, let's see. Okay, there's a course code. Maybe you want to, no, I mean, you need to check the text, right? There's a description of what the course is. 7 characters code, name, a number of credits. Okay, so there's a name, web applications, and the number of credits. See a few credits, whatever you want. 8, right? This course is 8. Okay, good. And then other ones and so on. But this is not enough, right? We say the constraints. Somewhere we need to have these constraints represented, right? So, in the same object, because it's information related to the same course, right? So I think we can put the information about the fact it's and there is some requirements. No, what was the name? Preparatory. Yeah, preparatory. Oops, this is a string. Any keyword, any key in JSON is a string, right? I mean, there's no requirement. Let's decide the way in which we represent no requirements in terms of preparatory courses. Null, it's a valid JSON value, it's fine. Okay. You want to use the empty string, it's okay. Important thing is that you don't have anything that can be confused with actual courses, right? And you now, once you decide the format, you stick with that format and you handle this format on the client side when you receive the information. Okay, and incompatibilities. Incompatibilities. Actually, we say there can be more than one. Okay, so we cannot just say it's a single value. Okay. I think the best thing is they take advantage of the JSON format. If you have a list of things, make a list. Okay. I'm copying just because. No, goal of. So it's something which is in line with the text, but I mean not really important. I mean, there are solutions that I often see at the exam where I find here, like I find a single string where the course codes separated by commas. Yeah, I mean, it's reasonable, but why should you do it? I mean, you have the JSON format, everything is parsed automatically. If you want to make a string, separate elements with commas and reconstruct them by yourself in the client side, you write more code and you risk having bugs and so on, okay? So, I mean, I'm not saying it's wrong. I think we never deducted points for this approach, okay? As long as any relevant information can be represented in the format you just invented, okay? Like if it's a list of, I don't know, a list of something that can contain a comma, like, yeah, a list of course names, okay? Instead of the code is seven characters, fine. But if you want to have the course names, some course names may have a comma, okay? So make sure you handle these cases if you want to invent your format. And that's why I would suggest don't invent your format, just use the format that is available. So the JSON format that can handle any kind of string, okay? So you have a list of values, you have a list of strings. I mean, strings can be anything, right? And the list is handled by the JSON, okay? So I think it's safer and it's even simpler to use the JSON format if possible, okay? Maximum number of students. I think that's the last thing we need to represent here. Or the number of enrolled students as well. Okay. Max students, right? Max students. How do you represent the fact that there is no max? Up to you. Again. Null. It's possibility. -1, minus something. Okay, since a maximum number of persons cannot be negative, still fine. Okay, it's up to you. You decide what is reasonable for you. Okay, and of course, once you have an approach to solve your problem, I mean, like, how can I represent the fact that there is no maximum? Just remember that you use that approach, and in all of your code, client-side, server-side, you need to be coherent, okay? Use the same approach. Okay, so I would say null, okay? Maybe the number of enrolled students can be included here as well. It's up to you to decide if max students is null, you want to add the key, a new key in the JSON, like number of students or enrolled students, again with null or with some other number maybe, or not. Again, many choices. You see that if you prepare the solution yourself, for sure you have something different from your colleagues. Okay? Okay. Good, so courses, it's fine. Study plan. Of course, if you have any other ideas, just speak up. So, response body. Response body. What is a study plan? Actually, a study plan, well, for the Politecnico, it's more complex story, right? But, I mean, just stick to the text, okay? We cannot solve, we cannot implement Amazon or Google or the Polito website, okay? Just the text. So, a study plan is just like a list of codes, right? It's fine. So like 0 to LSCOV, 0 to G. Oh no, that's incompatible. ABC, okay? ABCOV and so on, okay? That's a study plan for the user. The rest is already available in the list of the courses, right? It should be already on the client side, in the memory of the client. What is missing here is what we neglected just before. I mean, the fact that, you have a part-time or full-time study plan, right? So that's this flag, this option, okay, that we should represent somewhere, okay? Again, don't invent any strange mechanism like a course just for this case that has a different variance. You have the JSON format, okay? So there's a list of courses and you have an additional information. Just put everything into an object, right? So this will be the course list. Let me give a name. Courses. Courses. Once you create an object in JSON, you need to have key values, right? And then another key, full-time, I think, right? Full-time, false. True, false. This can be true, false, it's fine, okay? Do we need to return the maximum and minimum number of credits for the study plan? Well, this is a really difficult question in terms of what is specified here. I would say you ask the teacher, you ask somebody who asked you to create the web application. These 60, 80, and so on can be fixed in the code or need to be parameterized somewhere. So they need to be stored like in the database or can be easily changed on the server side and so on. In this second case, of course, you need to transmit this information from the server to the client. If nothing is said about this condition, I think you can just say, well, they are fixed. If you are in doubt, just ask. These are the questions to which we gladly answer, okay? Typically, when we want something like this, which is specified as a single number, a fixed number in the text, and we want you to be able to change it later without changing the code, we say it explicitly, okay? So in this case, of course, it's an information that should travel from the server to the client and vice versa, depending on which information it is, okay? But here, I think it's safe to assume that it's a fixed number for the full-time and part-time, okay? So it can be hard-coded in the client side as well on the server side if needed, okay? If in doubt, ask. Of course, this is not a solution that is acceptable in general in the, let's say, in the real world because, people typically change mind and you might want to be sure that, they don't come to you after you deliver your project and they say, well, I cannot change this 60. Our regulation has changed and I want 65 instead of 60. Okay? But we try to restrict a little bit what you need to implement. Actually, this is not so important. It's just a detail in the project, right? If you have 65 instead of 60, it doesn't change that much. Okay? I think there's a maximum, not a maximum. No, you need to write a little bit of code. So we want this feature to be implemented, okay? And we cannot just say, well, we forgot I forgot to implement and we can say, well, it doesn't matter, okay? Because the others spend some time coding this feature and so it's not fair for them. That's a question, right? Yes. For what? For that? You mean here for the code? It's not required. It's one of the things you can ask, but here in general, I mean, if nothing is specified, it says 7 characters. So it can be I mean, alphabetical letters, alphanumeric characters, let's say. I would say even symbols, okay, like dots and so on. I know that Polito has its own structure, every place has its own structure, but again, it's just a requirement for them. And I would say, well, we provided an example in the text, so you might be tempted to do some validation. I mean, but actually here we are not adding courses, we are not removing courses. So, I mean, we don't really need to care about this, right? They are just the strings. I mean, the only thing which is said in the text is there are 7 characters. So the only validation you can safely do is check if there are 7 characters. If you do something more, probably it works because we don't have an example with some different types of codes. But yeah, if you are unsure, just ask and we will clarify. And typically, if something is not said in the text, we say it's not required. Okay. But this matters in case you want to add or new courses, right? Because in that case, you need to create a new course and somebody has to validate this is a good code. But actually, the good code is specified as only by saying it's 7 characters. So I would say you get a string, you check the length is 7, is fine. It doesn't exist already in the database, that's fine. Okay? Of course, this is a unique code. Okay, so don't forget this. Yeah, unique. So just in the example as I was saying, if you add something, you need to make sure it's unique, right? Okay, but I mean here we are not required to add courses, so that's good. Okay, so thank you for the question, first question. It's good. Okay, post API study plan. So, what's the, actually here it's the request body, right? So instead of the response body. Copy, right? I would say request. Let's finish this part and then we will have a break, okay? I know you're tired. So request body. Well, actually I would say it's the same, right? Is there anything that we want to make or implement in a different way? Well, I would say one could question, should we, I mean, when we decide if it's a full-time or part-time study plan, should we save this information before saving the full study plan? Again, not sure. You ask. If you are not sure, you ask and we will tell you. I would say probably doesn't matter so much, so maybe here it's not required, but up to you, okay? So when it's up to you, I recommend follow the simplest path, okay? Because you have less stuff to code, less possibility of making errors and mistakes and so on, okay? So let's decide to save the information if it's a full-time or part-time study plan together with the study plan when we save the study plan, okay? I must say I have a doubt at this moment because because if the study plan No, the user may create an empty one specifying full-time or part-time option. This empty list can be edited and so on, and then you can save it. But then you load the study plan. It's a full-time or part-time. I mean, it doesn't say anything about it can be changed. I mean, also the flag part-time, full-time can be changed or not while editing the study plan. Not sure. Again, something that you can ask, okay? That's why we get so many questions, right, when we publish the text. Because it's difficult to think in terms of all the possibilities that can happen. And actually, this is the real world as well. Actually, you get like a draft of specification from the one who is paying for creating the website. And their ideas may not be so clear, okay? And so there will be a lot of interaction with the ones that ask you to develop the website because you run into a situation in which you don't know what to do, right? So again, you ask, we say, up to you, okay? So if it's up to us, I would say the best thing is, well, let's let the user edit also the full-time, part-time flag, okay? So that we have only one API, okay? The API that saves the study plan, including the flag. And the API needs only to check if everything is coherent, including the flag, part-time, full-time, knowing that part-time is between 20 and 40 and so on, okay? Otherwise, we need to have a separate API, okay, or something that, let's say, no, maybe not a separate API, but you need to have an additional check when you save the study plan, making sure the study plan does not exist yet in case the full-time flag is different from what you, no, sorry. In case the study plan exists, you need to check if the full-time flag is the same as the one that is already stored, okay? But I mean, we are complicating things. That's why it's worth asking, right? Before implementing so many checks and codes and so much code, I mean, just ask, okay? And I mean, this is just a single feature. So, I mean, it's not like you are missing the whole authentication section in your website. You probably don't pass the exam. If there is like this flag that doesn't work as expected and so on, it's probably maybe a mark or two at the exam, okay? But it doesn't make you fail the exam, okay, if the rest is correct, okay? So I think you need to also prioritize things correctly. Let's try to have a first draft of the application working with the main functionalities and so on, and then you refine things, okay? Because in this way, you pass the exam and then you increase the features implemented correctly and so on, and you get a higher mark, okay? Okay, delete doesn't require any parameter, right? No parameters. Why? Because again, I don't need to say which study plan must be deleted. I mean, there's only one study plan that can be deleted, the one of the authenticated user, okay? So it's really wrong to send either information about the authenticated user, so ID of the user or whatever, or the ID of the study plan. In any case, if I take this wrong, I send such information, on the server side, you cannot trust such information. It can come from any authenticated user. So you just need to recover the information that corresponds to the authenticated user from a safe place, from the database and so on, okay? And how do you know which is the authenticated user? Again, from the rank user that you have on the server side, okay? So I think, yeah, we have we implemented more or less the yes, the APIs. Well, implemented, we described the APIs. Well, no, there's still a question mark. Actually, yeah, really last thing, and then we will break. What do we put here instead of the question mark? Actually, when you authenticate, you return user information, but we say, what do you return? First name, last name? It can be. But, I mean, think in terms of your navigation in the client side. After you log in, you need to show the study plan. Right? So either you do nothing here, so you return nothing here, and then you, from the client, you send a fetch with the get API study plan, and you get the study plan. That's one possibility, it's fine. Or you return the study plan here, and you save a call to the server. Okay, but I mean, we are not here to saving calls so much. I mean, it's normal that, I mean, you need new information, you make a call to an API. Really normal, okay? So it's up to you to decide if you want to include the study plan here or not, okay? And this is more tricky because actually returns info about authenticated user. And if we have no information about the user, no first name, no last name, and so on, well, actually here we should at least return the username or the user ID, because this API is used when you load the application, just for convenience, right? So at least the ID. Maybe plus the study plan. Since there is just one, and this is the only one associated to the user, okay? It could be. Or again, as before, you make a second call and you do a get study plan. It's fine, okay? So I think that's all, okay? So, but as you saw, there are many different approaches to the same problem. We can decide to return the study plan here, or just issue a second call with the fetch from the client and so on, okay? Just decide what is you think is suitable for you. And in case when you develop, you discover something doesn't work or it's not working as you expect, well, of course, feel free to change your approach, okay? Okay, so I would say if there are no questions, let's break for 10 minutes, something like this. And then in the second part, we'll go forward and we'll have, I think we will test a little bit of the server that we already have. But, I mean, the server took a different approach about designing the API. Oh, no, before we will design the tables for the database. But, yeah, I mean, this should be quick. Okay? So let's break for 10 minutes.